So today I'm going to show you how to use a few more keyboard shortcuts, including the Lasso tool to colorize your tiles. If you haven't opened up this file yet, it's right here. Please make sure to watch both of these videos also because they show how to open up, alter the images, and then save it in two different ways. This one actually shows how to save it as a PSD and also export the JPEG. And I'll show you again on the video I'm recording right now to do the same thing. So again, if you haven't done this before, just click on this file and it will open up this Photopea document. I'm going to talk you through the process as I draw it and sort of do a quick review of what we've already discussed. So one of the keyboard shortcuts that I use often is holding the control key down and tapping the plus key, which is on the top right of your keyboard next to the backspace key. What this does is it allows you to zoom into your image to see the close-up, including all the way going down to the pixel level where the pixels are very large squares. Remember, pixel is kind of like an acronym or a shortcut for the words picture element. So as you'll note, as you might recall, I've got three layers. One of them I'm calling the ink layer, which is this black layer. The next one is a color layer, which currently has nothing on it. And then white back is the background layer of just a white filled area. Whenever you're coloring on your drawing here, make sure that you've got the color palette or the color layer selected. Now I've got this aqua color already selected, but again, you can choose any number of colors by clicking on that paint swatch and then moving the color thing up and down or just randomly clicking in an area like this. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it on this bright purple color, and I'm going to saturate it as high as I can by pushing this up to the top right corner and clicking OK. In the color layer, we started coloring the background. The best way to do that quickly is to click on this Paintbrush tool, and notice whenever I roll over a tool, that little box pops up and shows me the keyboard shortcut, which in this case is the letter B. So rather than clicking this and painting in here, I could have just tapped the letter B. So watch what happens when I just tapped this or clicked on this icon up here, but watch what happens when I tap the letter B. It switches to the brush tool. Again, to zoom in, I'm going to hold the control key down, which is on the bottom left and right of your keyboard, and tap the plus to enlarge it. Notice how when I tap this that it went out of the picture because it's really high up there on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the space bar. You'll notice how the cursor changes from a circle into a little hand. This way I can drag the image around and paint some more. Now in this case, I'm trying to paint just the background area. If your brush is too big, you can decrease the size of it by tapping the bracket tool, which is right next to the letter P on your keyboard. To make your brush smaller, that's the left bracket tool to make it really tiny, to get into some of these really small details. If I want the brush larger, I tap the right bracket and the paintbrush gets larger. So using all of these tools together enables you to very quickly paint, add paint to areas, and also erase. The letter B, as I've already said, controls the brush tool. For the eraser tool, I'm going to tap the letter E. Notice how the brush changed. So the size of the brush currently is very large, 35 pixels in diameter. But the eraser tool is currently set to 15 pixels. How this really helps you information-wise is that now I can go in with the smaller eraser and clean up some of these stray lines that I don't want on the figures. So the way I've got this file set up, I've got it set up so that the color layer is currently where you're going to paint the background. And a lot of you have already started working on this, so you'll know what I'm talking about. Whereas I want the figures on this to be a different color or different color combinations, I'm going to create another layer very quickly by clicking on this icon down here. Notice how it says new layer when I pause for a second. To change the name of the layer, I'm going to double click where it says layer 1, and I'm just going to call this people. So the people layer is going to be a separate layer from the color layer. Now I can choose another color. And when I paint over this, notice what happens. The people layer is higher up than the color layer. So in order of sequence, it goes white back, that's the farthest behind, then color, then people, then ink. Just like before, as I paint on here, it's going to leave the ink layer alone, but paint on the people layer. And since this layer is in front of the color layer, it's also going to paint over or in front of the purple background. Here's where the layers really come in handy. Since I don't want to color over the purple background, I'm in a separate layer, so that when I go to erase this area here by tapping the letter E, I'm erasing the yellow, which is in front of the purple, which is on a completely different layer. This helps you by enabling you to separate the colors out so that it doesn't ruin your purple layer in the background. So one other way, as I mentioned today, to color something is to use the Lasso tool. The Lasso tool is a selection tool, and it's underneath this rectangular dotted line, which is called the rectangle select, also sometimes called the Marquee tool, which is why the letter M is the keyboard shortcut. The Lasso tool is actually in the same area as this one. It's in the same tool set. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down and click on this. Didn't work. Let me double click. Okay, let me double click on the corner. There we go. So notice how the Lasso Select tool has the letter L. The Rectangle Select tool is the letter M. So rather than worrying about being able to select this tool by double clicking on it, I'm just going to remember that the letter L is for the Lasso tool, and the number M, or the letter M, is for the Marquee tool or the Rectangular Select tool. So how this works is, I'm going to move the page down a little bit. I'm going to select another area. I'm using the trackpad to select this area. I'm just going to go all the way around here and very carefully try to select this area. It hasn't drawn anything yet. All it's doing is making a selection. Once I let go of the trackpad, notice the dotted line. So this is the area that's currently selected. I'm going to tap on the letter B on my keyboard to get the paintbrush. Then I'm going to change this color here to something else so that you can see the difference. Click OK. Now here's where it gets interesting. If I click and drag in here, it's going to paint everything that's inside this dotted line or this marquee. But if I try to paint over here, nothing's going to happen because it's in an area outside of what's selected. The nice thing about this is it's limited to just the area that I have selected. In order to paint in other areas, I can either add to this selection or I can deselect it. If I want to deselect it, I go up to the Select menu and select Deselect. Notice that there's a keyboard shortcut, Control D. So I'm going to deselect this one. And now when I paint, it paints wherever I'm painting on. And it's not limited to that area that was inside the selection. And here again, notice how I've gone outside here a little bit. Well, this is actually part of the same person, so I'm not going to worry about this area. But you can see where there's other places, like on top of the purple here, where I've accidentally painted over. Since it's on a different layer, I can tap the letter E for the eraser and very carefully erase the green, which is on top of the purple in a different layer. Here's another interesting thing. If I want to paint, I currently have green selected down here, but if I want to pick up this purple, I can actually select that color by tapping the letter I. Notice how it selected this tool. This is the Eyedropper tool. Any place I click on the screen, watch what happens to the swatch down here when I click on the purple. So now I've changed it to purple. If I want to click over here, I can select this orange color. If I want over here, I can select this green color. Again, tapping the letter B to get the paintbrush. Since I have the green selected, I want to make the brush a little bit smaller to get this little area that I missed down here. So I'm going to tap the left bracket to make my paintbrush smaller. Since this is a different character here, I can either continue to erase by erasing like this, or if I want to paint orange on top of the green, I can tap the letter I on my keyboard, click here to sample this orange color, tap the letter B to get the brush, and then paint the orange right over the top of the green. In this case, when I paint over the top of it, it's actually literally replacing the color, so there's no blending going on. Control key and plus to zoom in. I can go down in here and paint the hand of this character. So you can see one of the benefits of this drawing that I'm coloring has very fat lines to color inside of. Makes it a lot easier to color inside these areas because the lines are so fat. I'm going to tap the I again to get the eyedropper tool. Click the green. Tap the letter B to get the brush tool. And continue brushing down here. If I don't want to take the time to go through and paint all of this by hand, I'm going to touch the space bar, hold the space bar down to get more of this area in. If I want to hit all of this without actually physically painting it all, I'm going to tap the letter L on my keyboard to get the Lasso tool. And I'm going to select this area here. And this is one other really nice thing. Notice how I didn't go all the way around there, but I sort of took a shortcut. When I let go of the mouse, it's going to show me this area that's selected, but I missed this area down here. The way that I can select that also is to hold the Shift key down on the keyboard and add more areas to the selection like this. I'm going to let go of the mouse first and it selected that area. Again, Shift key. What this enables you to do is it enables you to select areas to add to the selection. So Shift, add to the selection. If I want to subtract from the selection, I can actually hold the Alt key down, which is right next to the space bar, and select areas to deselect. So now when I paint this, I'm going to tap the letter B to get the paintbrush. Now when I paint this, notice how it doesn't paint that part in between. That's because that part in between is deselected. So again, I'm going to tap the letter L for the lasso. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and draw back around this area to reselect this. And now to fill this whole area, I'm going to hold the Alt key down and tap the backspace key. Control 0 so you can see the whole thing again. I want to deselect this area. Control D. So once again, that was a lot of information. The nice thing about this is that you can watch this video repeatedly and you can pause it and rewind it. Before I go, remember to always save it in both file formats. I'm going to go File, Save as PSD. It should, the very first time you save it, you need to click at the end of here, right on the other side of this underscore, and put your first initial and last name on it. And also another underscore and whatever period you're in. Period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Please make sure it has your first initial and last name on here. And then click Save. Then you also need to go File, Export as JPEG. Click where it says Save here, and OK. And then save this someplace where you can access it quickly. I think yours by default will save in your Downloads folder. So I'm going to click Save. Notice how it kept the name A Student on here, because I did a save as a PSD and it remembered that. So I'll click Save. And now my work is saved for the next time I want to open it up. Here's the difference between a PSD and a JPEG. If I go to File, Open, and I go back to that JPEG, excuse me, that was the Photoshop document. You can tell because it has the layers still. File, Open. Oh, I put it in the Downloads folder. So I'll click on the Downloads folder, and here's the JPEG. So now you can see there's only one layer. So this image is flattened, meaning the layers have been flattened into one layer. This is the file that you can import or place into your Google Slides show. And I'll save that for another video.